it's another warm welcome to the Women's Rugby Pod. We've got a huge show coming at you this week. Exciting week for women's rugby yet again. The start of the Six Nations. We've got Lark, Davies, the England hooker. We've got Siwan Lillicrap, the Wales captain. And we've also got Rachel Malcolm, the Scotland captain, all coming up on the pod with all the news and some big results from the Premier 15s as well. I'm Johnnie Hammond.
And I'm Rachel Burford.
And this is the Women's Rugby Pod. Yeah, big old week, Berth, isn't it? Exciting stuff. Just off the back of the men's Six Nations, heralded as the best Six Nations of all time. Can the women follow suit all by themselves? Where are the excitement levels right now, Berth?
Oh, I'm really excited. Genuinely can't wait to see the fixtures, see how teams have been going during this really tough time, how the preparation is going to lead into the weekend. I'm really excited about the Fantasy League. Can't wait to get on board with that and dig some people out for having really low points. But yeah, no, I'm really excited. Can't wait for it to all get going.
Oh, great stuff. And how are you? How's the rehab coming?
Yeah, all good. I've pretty much graduated, or I'm telling the physio that I've graduated from rehab. Back into training a little bit last week. Just was a little bit too soon to be able to put the boots on for the weekend. But yeah, all good. Thanks, Johnnie.
Good. We should just remind people of the fixtures this weekend from the Six Nations in Pool A. England against Scotland on Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock, isn't it? Castle Park up at Doncaster on the BBC iPlayer. And Pool B, France against Wales on BBC Wales and the BBC iPlayer as well. Join myself and Philippa Tuttiet for that one. Very much looking forward to that one. Anyway, it's a packed show, Berth. We're looking at everything Six Nations. But let's get our first guest on a... if you can find my teeth, that'd be super. Let's get our first guest on board today.
You're too excited.
Too excited.
Yeah.
I literally cannot speak. I'm that excited. No, let's get a lady who has certainly been making some headlines with her try-scoring attributes, all from about 4.5 millimeters. But no, the England hooker, Lark Davies is joining us on the pod. It is a very warm welcome from what looks like an incredibly sunny Doncaster. I mean, and that's a rarity in itself, the fact that it's sunny in Doncaster. Hello, Lark Davies. How are you?
Hi, guys. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, we've lucked out with the weather a bit at the moment, but hopefully it'll hold out for Saturday. Fingers crossed we won't have a repeat of what we did when we last played Scotland up at Murrayfield with the snow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be a slight change, wouldn't it? If there was a bit of sunshine, because yeah, it's a freezing old day. Lark, we've got loads to get into with you this morning, if that's okay. A really exciting week, of course, the Six Nations. When did you guys get together? I know you've been sort of having mini camps, sort of early parts of the week over the last month or so. But when did you guys all come together up in Doncaster?
Yeah, so we came together yesterday. So we've just had one day in camp so far. And logistically how it works, like we sort of had gym yesterday and a few bits of skills, but today's a bit of a bigger training day. So looking forward to that, getting our teeth stuck into a bit more. I think people have settled, unpacked stuff, got settled into the hotel. And yeah, so we're sort of probably ready to go today in terms of training wise.
Yeah, I saw Shauna Brown as part of her routine being away and what have you. I mean, I'm going to make a slightly flippant comment, but yeah, there's a serious point to her way of dealing with being away and whatever. Got all her bits and pieces out, but I think she probably measured everything with a ruler in her cupboards and what have you, just to get everything settled. Just in terms of, because we're a rare glimpse into the England camp. How does it work with COVID and what have you? Just take us through it. Say today, a full training day. How does that work with the COVID restrictions?
So it'll probably be more in context if I explained yesterday. In terms of like when we got here yesterday, we all did lateral flow tests. Then we had our PCR tests, and the results of those don't come back until today. So they've all come back today, which means that we're able to do more as a team and more together. So yesterday was a very social, like distance day. very much sort of time in your room to get everything sorted. And today we were allowed to sort of be in our team a lot more, progress training to contact training now that we've had the results back through.
In terms of just knocking around outside of training, it looks like a very plush hotel room you've got there. But you would normally room with people, but now you don't. What eating arrangements, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so eating arrangements wise, we all have like our own table that's got like 2 meters away from everyone else, and we all face a certain way. So it's a bit like being in like a school exam hall, but you're eating instead. So obviously that's a bit different because you're used to sort of being able to sit with people and chat. But I mean, we still find a way to chat. But and yeah, roommate wise, we don't have roommates at the moment, so we're just on our own in a room. I think for some people they love that. For other people, they miss their roomies. I know I miss my roomie. I normally room with Lydia Thompson. So yeah, I think it's one of those where it's slightly different in terms of like it when you go back to your room, you're in your room then. So it's finding different ways to connect with people. McKenna does a good job. She like organises some social stuff for us to do, and she's sort of always got cool ideas to do that. So we've done stuff on Zoom, but yeah, it's very different. It's sort of like all the mask wearing as well. But yeah, we've adapted to it, and we're sort of getting used to it now. But yeah, I do miss my roomie.
I mean, I know that you're kind of like socially distanced and maybe, you know, not getting into all the banter and stuff as much as normal. But I mean, what is the buzz and the excitement like this week at the moment? Like, we've been talking about this for so long, the postponement of the Six Nations, you know, the disappointment there, but now it's here and now it's in this new format. I mean, what's the feeling amongst everybody?
Yeah, there was such a good vibe yesterday. I think everyone was just excited to be here and be in the build up to like a game week. Like you said, we've been in camp a lot recently. And we've been working like really, really hard. So like some grueling sessions. So I think knowing that we're going into a game this weekend is really exciting, and sort of knowing the opportunity that we've got ahead of us and sort of having that prolonged period of time together is something that we're all super excited for. And yeah, looking forward to what we can go out and do on Saturday.
What are your feelings on the truncated tournament format? Are you a needs must, a shame, only want it to be for this year because it doesn't sort of represent the Six Nations fully? Where are you at with that?
Yes, yeah, I'd like it to go back to normal for next year. I think most people that you ask would probably say the same. I think, you know, in my head, we wanted the tournament to go ahead and we wanted to have those games. So it's kind of like a needs must, but it does feel slightly different in terms of the format of it. And sort of obviously you get used to, if you've been involved like quite a long time or a few times, you get used to how the tournament sort of plays out and the format of that. And I think it will be very different. Like when you think about playing sort of Scotland, Italy, and then into the final round, like it doesn't seem like the Six Nations in a way, but I think we've still got to see it as a really good opportunity to go and play some international rugby. But yeah, I'd like to see it return to normal next year.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. I want to get into you kind of more personally in just a second. I just because we're speaking to someone immersed in the England camp, how the reaction to the World Cup postponement, not necessarily your feelings on whether it should or shouldn't, what have you, because we've got no rewind button. It is what it is. But I just wondered how that's been reacted to in the squad, whether it was openly spoken about as a team. How do we approach this now? How are we going to do things possibly slightly differently now?
Yeah, so I think initially, obviously, we spoke about it quite a lot in terms of when we got the news. And I think individually, everyone has a different circumstance, so it will affect everyone so differently across the squad. And I think for me as an individual, I was sort of, I was quite shocked. I felt a bit blindsided by it because I generally had like got my head around it all going ahead and thinking that it would happen. And I think there were a fair few individuals that thought that too, but a lot on the other side of it, thinking that, it probably will be postponed. So we've spoken about it a bit, but now I think our focus has obviously turned to this tournament and to the Six Nations and sort of putting ourselves in the best position to go out and perform this year to then obviously go into next year and keep building up to the World Cup. But yeah, I think we just didn't expect it. Like it just almost for us, we were just like, it was just like that moment of like, oh wow, okay. I think once people had a bit of time to sort of think about it and put it into perspective, I think that's when we could sort of have those conversations. But yeah, it was very much sort of a time in camp where we sort of knew something was going on. We could tell that there was going to be some big news, and sort of everyone was sort of, I'm quite a member of the squad, so I kind of took myself off thinking, right, okay, I'm going to take myself away from the noise. But yeah, obviously when it did get announced, it was one of those where I just think it's so different for everyone in depending on their individual circumstance. So yeah.
Enough of all the bits and pieces and your views around the game. Let's talk about you. With debut 2018. Yeah, Italy.
No, I think so. That was my first start, but I actually got my first cap 2015.
That's right.
Out in Canada as I think I was 19, 20. So it was, yeah, I sort of got a few caps that year and the year after, and then 2018 was my first start, and sort of probably where I'd changed sort of circumstances a bit and had like a solid year of being like, right, rugby is what I want to do. Like I'd been like at university, I'd been teaching, and that year I went part-time of teaching. So I wanted to allow for a bit more time rugby-wise to be able to train more. And so that was kind of the year where I feel like it all started, if that makes sense, where I really got my teeth stuck into it, and sort of I haven't really looked back since then in terms of like, it was quite a hard decision to make going part-time teaching wise, just because sort of financially, and it was a big step for me because I was quite new into teaching, but it definitely paid dividends. Like it was a really good decision, and yeah.
The reason my mind goes back to that game, because I remember speaking to would have been Matt Ferguson then, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
On the side of the pitch in Italy, and saying, "Oh, she's making her first start. Yeah, she's totally committed. Drop down work. You know, what an amazing commitment for a young lady to make, and it's really paying dividends." So yeah, that all ties in now. And since then, it's been a real old battle between you and Amy Cockayne for that number 2 shirt. And yeah, of late it's been you the one starting. What's your relationship like with Amy?
Yeah, I think actually we're sort of at the point where we want to help each other. We want to like be the best we can for the team. And in terms of like, I think definitely recently sort of, be it in the scrum or the line out, it's sort of, we support each other in what we do. So be it sort of at the line out, like throwing a certain ball, or you can get that earlier, or that's a great ball. I think it's sort of, you've got to see the sort of the wider picture sometimes with this sort of thing, is that actually we're both part of this squad, and although we probably both want to be in that starting shirt, we also both have a role to play. So like I can learn so much from her in terms of what she brings to the pitch. And yeah, I don't know whether she's saying the same about me, but I think it's it's one of those things where I think actually at the moment it's how can we all work together to put ourselves in the best position to go out and perform. And don't get me wrong, like I said earlier, like when I play against her in the Prem 15s, it's always a massive battle. And I think it's also knowing what our strengths are as individual players. I think you look at Amy's strengths and my strengths, and there's probably some similarities, but also some differences, and respecting that too, in terms of what team they want to put out, what they want to see in terms of the bigger picture. So yeah.
Competitiveness throughout the squad at the moment. But yeah, I think, you know, having somebody where you're both kind of neck and neck, and like you said there, selection based on who you're playing, what you might want to get out of you or out of Amy, it's so healthy to have that in the squad. and not to just kind of have just one individual and not have somebody, you know, either nipping at your heels and making tough decisions for the coaches. But let's talk about your try scoring at Prem 15s then, because I think you're winning on that round, aren't you?
Yeah, I feel like I've had quite a lot of conversations about this recently, and I know Mo asked me before the game against Wasps, she was like, how many have you actually scored that aren't off the back of a maul? And I was like, I'm not entirely sure, but quite, like, I think potentially not half and half, but a few have been. And in that game, actually, the 2 that I scored weren't off the back of them all. So I kind of like looked at them and was like, yeah.
You set her up.
Yeah. But no, like I genuinely think it's one of those things where actually, if I nail my role and if we're doing what we want to do as a pack at Lightning, then naturally those tries will come. But also, it's never sort of in my mind. It's more so for me about going out and performing. And if I go out and do the things I want to do on the pitch, and like I've recently been working on sort of my power, making sure that I can be really powerful in those close quarters, and I think that's probably shown slightly in the nature of the tries that I've scored. They're not exactly running meters tries, they're more so sort of 5 meters out or close, like really like close to the line.
Points to points. 2
yeah.
meters or 20 meters or 50 meters.
Yeah, true. But in my mind, it's sort of putting the team in the best possible position to go and get that win. And if I can score those tries in doing that, then yeah, it's good. But it's not sort of the thing that's at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, we can't always simmy Pam, can we? Score them from 16.
She scored another great try again this weekend against Worcester. She powerful, really yeah.
Yeah. It's lucky enough to be there. She's an incredible player. So I mean, you've got a few development players now. And you mentioned that game. Flo Long played it in that game. I was very impressed by seeing her. Does that change the dynamic of the squad? Because it's sort of slightly new thinking from Simon Middleton.
I think it's been a really good contribution to the squad, to be honest. Like the girls that have come in have like done so well. They've fitted in seamlessly. And they're challenging as well, which is great. You've got obviously players like Flo Long. You've got more like some really talented young players coming in, and I think it's really good for the squad in terms of that they can come in, and the energy that they've brought as well has been really good. So I think as well, sort of training wise, the more opportunities we can get to be sort of 15 on 15, it creates sort of a really good position for us to be in terms of that. But yeah, credit to the younger players at the moment that are in the Prem 15s. They're coming in and they're showing what they're all about. And yeah, they've been a really great addition to our training squad so far. So
this weekend, Donny, Castle Park, great venue. I know it won't have crowds, but yeah, that big old stand. It's a good old ground and a happy hunting ground for you. I mean, talk about your try scoring. You already scored a couple against Canada, wasn't it, a few years back? Yeah, that seems quite a long time ago now. But yeah, scored a couple against Canada. Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago now potentially. But yeah, I do enjoy coming up to Donny. It'll be slightly different, obviously, without the crowd. Normally the crowd are there and they fill the stadium and it's a really great atmosphere. But I definitely think still we'll try and sort of bring that energy and create what the performance that we want to create in terms of obviously Scotland. Scotland are a passionate side. Obviously, I play a lot with a few of the girls from Scotland myself at Lightning. So it's set to be a real battle, I think. I'm really excited. And talk about Scotland then for us. As you say, you've probably got a little inside line to a few of those players. And there'll be quite a lot of knowledge in and amongst the Prem 15 for the Scotland players who play there. What are you expecting from them? Because they become far more a challenge, and I mean that in the greatest possible respect. You know, years ago it was sort of cricket scores, wasn't it? But last few years they're certainly on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, massively. You know, you look at when they played France in the autumns, I think it was. You know, that scoreline reflects sort of where they're moving to and where they're building. And I know that obviously we're playing with a few of the girls. They've been in camp a lot and spending a lot of time together. So one thing that we always know is Scotland is having that passion, that physicality. You know, they've got some really sort of physical players that we know we're going to have to meet sort of chest on chest almost to make sure that we win that physical battle. But yeah, it will sort of, for us more so, it's focusing on us, and we know what they'll bring, but I think we want to show what we've been doing in training. We've been working so hard in terms of the physical pressure practice that we've been doing. Like it's taken sort of the training to a new level. I don't think I've sort of in a training session, I think my high speed meters are sort of the highest they've ever been, of which I was always trying to get higher sort of, but it will be massive in terms of like we want to go and show that our sort of work rate, our intensity is incredibly high, and sort of that will be massive in terms of what we show.
I've got one more question, Beth. Honey, sitting there just listening away. Do you get a sense, and it's always something that's always a shock to me about the women's game is, as a collective and individuals, you understand the role you have within your sport, and that's to drive it in any way you can, whether it's on the field or off the field. Is there a sense, has been even spoken about, that you're being able to go out and play sport when, you know, okay, no, we're coming out of lockdown now, but you've been privileged enough to get together as players and what have you, but also that responsibility that the Women's Six Nations is by itself and a real chance to shine alone?
Yeah, massively. I think the first part of the question, we've all been sort of incredibly grateful. You know, we all wanted to get back to rugby and to have been able to play the season that we have and to be able to go into international games. You know, that's incredible, and you know, it's something that we've been sort of working towards, but also the credit for all our medical staff and our managers that have worked tirelessly to like be able to get us to this position, because like the work that is going on behind the scenes, like they have so much to do to make sure that everything is running smoothly and going well. And then I think the standalone part in terms of the Women's Six Nations, I think all of us do see that as a responsibility to showcase the women's game. And so not only to go out and perform, but also showcase what we're all about. And with it sort of being on the BBC iPlayer and BBC Two, I think that's massive in terms of the making sure that we go out and perform, but also showcasing the game and it being readily available for people to watch. I know definitely from the autumns, like a lot of people that had never even messaged me before, like people I went to school with, like primary school with, that I hadn't spoken to for years, after the games had been on BBC Two, were sort of messaging me being like, oh my gosh, like we've just watched a game, like we haven't watched before, but we'll definitely watch again. And I think that's the sort of reaction you want to have, and you want to generate massive audiences and to keep spreading that word and to keep building the game itself. So I think we all want to go out there and showcase it. And I think there is a lot of excitement in terms of with the Fantasy League. That's sort of pretty cool that they're doing that this year for the Women's Six Nations. So there's a lot of excitement around it, but we also know that there's a lot of responsibility to go with that in terms of making sure that we really showcase and make sure that the women's game is sort of shown in its best light, which you know, we all know sitting here how good it is, but it's important to show that for the audiences watching.
Oh, I'm inspired. I want to get the boots on, Lark. I want to get the boots on. No, I'm conscious you've got team meetings, whether over Zoom or not, I'm not sure, but the sun is shining up there. You've got a full day of training. You've given us loads and loads of your time already. Unless there's anything from you, Berth?
No, just nuggets. wish you the best of luck for the weekend. Really excited to see. I've heard Mids talk about how training's been. I've listened to the moans and the groans from the Quins girls when they come back about how tough it is. So it's going to be so exciting to see that training and all that hard work go into the game at the weekend. And yeah, can't wait to watch.
Thanks, Beth.
Great stuff, Lark. Thank you so much. Enjoy Donny. Enjoy Scotland. Let's see. We look forward to seeing you getting over the 30 cap mark over the Six Nations. And thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Thanks for chatting to me.
Cheers, Lark.
Cheers, Lark.
Bye.
Great to have Lark on the pod, Berth. Gemma went into the England cap. Was it last six? No, it can't be last Six Nations. Six Nations before. Anyway, no idea what day of the week it is. And she was across the table and really, really engaging. She's someone I always wanted to have on, and yeah, proved it there. Really articulate young lady, and is growing and growing and growing within that England squad. You know, she very much started her career there as a bench player. You know, back up to Amy Cockayne. She's really, really now challenging for that number 2 shirt on a very, very regular basis. In fact, she's the incumbent, isn't she?
Yeah, she's gone from, strength to strength. And you heard it there about how she made that sacrifice and that commitment to go part-time to then allow her to fully engage in training, recovery, and that's paid absolute dividends for her as in, then obviously contracts came in. She's put herself in a position to be offered one, and she understands the grit to get to where she's got to. And there's absolutely no way that she's going to let off, and she's going to try and keep hold of that shirt as tightly as she can. And yeah, it's a great competition between her and Amy Cockayne. Both bring different elements, and it's great to have two outstanding hookers within the side.
You guys spoke there a little bit about the intensity that you've been hearing from teammates and Simon Middleton and what have you. It seems like their reaction to the lack of the World Cup and whatever is where that doesn't really matter. Do you know, let's just absolutely steam into the Six Nations. Let's continue to build and see it as an opportunity to grow rather than sort of whinging and moaning about it and actually saying, right, well, in a year's time, actually, we're going to be that much better anyway.
Yeah, look, I think initially everyone's going to be really disappointed, but I think in hindsight they probably saw, this is actually better for us. They lost obviously Katie Day-McLean early, so it gives a bit more time there to fill that number 10 spot, which is critical. And I think they're playing in the Allianz Premier 15s. Yes, it's great that we are playing, but we still don't play the full rules. So again, that gives an opportunity for hopefully the laws to come back to what they were, again, leading into that World Cup, get them better prepared. England obviously also wanted to play against New Zealand in the lead up to the World Cup. That didn't happen. So again, I think they see more opportunities than not with the postponement of the Rugby World Cup.
Well, let's drill into it then. Six Nations, exciting week. What did you make of the England squad?
Yeah, well, it's got talent everywhere. It's really exciting. It's really hard to look at who he's going to pick, who he's going to start. What his thinking is. You've got players who are all in form in same positions. I'm really excited. I think it's brilliant about the development players being involved to help accelerate their learning. We've often seen before where players have been thrown into that deep end and not come out of it very well. So this is a brilliant way to bring in players and help them learn and understand what it's like to be in that environment and what levels they've got to go to. It's exciting. I can't wait to pick my fantasy league. That's another thing that I'm excited about. Honestly, the squad is so exciting.
Anyone particularly catch your eye? I mean, if you're a follower of the Red Roses, there are not too many surprises beyond that development, which I think is a cracking idea, isn't it? There's no negatives there whatsoever. But anyone particularly catch your eye in terms of whether they're new to the squad or they're banging form, they're absolutely nailed on?
Well, I think Meg Jones has been absolutely on form. She's been pulling all the strings at Wasps. So I'd love to see her get an opportunity. But at the same time, Helena's playing really well, Zoe's playing well. It makes that combination, you know, really exciting. About how they want to play may depend on which one he picks and which one he brings off the bench, or maybe there's a 10-12 combo with Meg at 12, maybe potentially. But I would actually love to see Meg get an opportunity at 10 to see what she can create there, because what she does at Wasps is unbelievable. And then you look at the likes of Abby Dow, how informed she is, the way she's finishing, the way the opportunity she's creating for herself. I think she's another one to watch. But yeah, Ellie Kildunn, another one. Up front, there's so many players that are in form. I mean, I could probably just list the whole team.
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you because I want a 15. Who's your starting 15?
Oh God, you can't put me on the spot like that.
Oh yes, I can, and I have. Let's go backline easy then.
Okay.
Slightly easier.
Oh no, that's not easier.
9.
Leanne Riley in absolute form at the moment. Number 10. I'm going to say I want to go with.
And this is your choice, not what you think will be selected.
Yeah, I would love to see Meg Jones at 10. Ooh. This is horrible.
13 we know.
How do you know?
Oh, okay, fair enough. Go on then.
Yeah. No, yeah, all right.
Who else are you going to pick?
Well, you never know. I might put Langi Tuima there.
Yeah, okay. She's been playing a bit at 12.
So Meg Jones at 10, Langi Tuima at 12, Emily Scarrett at 13, Abby Down one wing, Ellie Kildunn at fullback. I'm going to go Jess Breach on the other wing. It's very close for Lydia Thompson to be there.
Had a half.
So that's my back line. Yeah, that's my back line. Oh my God, the back row. Second row, Abby Ward, Zoe Allcroft. Front row, Shauna Brown, Amy Cocaine, Vic Cornborough. Back row, Poppy Cleal, Marley Packer. Beckett's not fit. Sunce has just come back. Fleeto. Victoria Fleetwood. Asari's pack row. A Quinn's front row. And second row. And then Gloucester Hartbury wedged in there. And then Asari's back row.
Boom, you heard it here first. Cornborough, Cocaine, Brown, Allcroft, Ward, Packer, Fleetwood, Cleal, Riley, Jones, Tuima, Scarrett, Dow, Breach, Kildunn.
There it is.
Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Brilliant. Now, just take us through your thoughts of the game, Berth. We know what happened last time these two played. It was in a sort of a sandstorm, something equated to being on the North Pole. But it was a day later, and it got a little bit of focus. Now this Women's Six Nations by itself up at Castle Park. If the weather's anything to go by this morning, it looks like it's going to be nice. It's a real opportunity, isn't it? And you get the sense that England are feeling that too.
Yeah, I think England will feel in a really confident place. They've obviously been playing regular fixtures in the Allianz Premier 15. The training that they've been doing has been real high intensity, so they're almost playing above match pace, even though the Allianz Premier 15 is so competitive. Some of the Allianz Premier 15 games I've been a part of have been tougher than internationals, so they're going to feel in a really good spot. But on the same flip of the fence, Scotland have had opportunity. They've been playing in the Allianz Premier 15, but they've also been in camp a lot together. They've bubbled together. So, I don't, and almost, speaking to some players from the nations that aren't full-time, they see this as a real opportunity. They feel like they're actually probably the closest they've ever been in terms of same amount of time to get together, weekends. England been together for a couple of days in the week. So it's almost, they see this as an opportunity that they're on almost not a level playing field, but very similar in terms of preparation.
What do you make of Scotland then, and their squad? How they're coming into this one?
Yeah, I think, you know, we've spoken to Jay Conkle before about this and how they've been progressing and working towards better performances for the full 80 minutes. You know, the experience that they're having in the English league has paid dividends for individual players. And, you know, they'll be looking at that France fixture and how they played against France. And if they're able to bring that this weekend, then they will cause a lot of problems for England. And, you know, the squad is really settled. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Like, I think England will still be too strong, but I definitely expect a really strong fight from Scotland. You know, Lark said it, they bring so much passion and pride, and that comes out on the pitch.
Just, I think 16 players that play in the Premier 15s. That's huge for Scottish rugby, isn't it? I know it's sort of conversely the RFU and the English rugby helping other nations. You know, Wales, similarly, huge amount of players playing in the Premier 15s. That's just going to bolster that preparation, isn't it? I know they're getting together a lot more. Those tests against South Africa, they're trying to play some more rugby. That can only be a massive advantage. And actually, getting inside the psyche of England and how England playing alongside these players every day.
Yeah, definitely. We know that, you know, the Premiership clubs now have really good setup, so it allows them to be professional as possible. Being in and around those players makes a huge difference, not just for, you know, their playing ability, but for that mental side of things. You know, week in, week out, Rona Lloyd's played against Jessica Breach. It's not a shock. It's not like something to worry about. And there's some of the things that people may not realise that, oh, I'm coming up against them. Well, I come up against them all the time now. So I think that plays a massive, massive part to it as well.
Where exactly is the game going to be won and lost, Berth?
Probably I think
your coach's hat on.
I think it's going to be about the pace of the game, how fast England want to play. So things are always won and lost around the breakdown area and the gain line. But I think the way that England want to play, they want to play fast, expansive, very direct rugby, and it's going to take Scotland to have to slow that down. And if they can do that, then they'll cause England a lot of problems. But if they struggle to even retain the ball and slow England's ball down, then it's going to be a tough day.
Score?
Don't know. Not allowed to bet on rugby. Sorry.
You're going to have a prediction. It's not betting, it's a prediction. You're going to have to do it for match point anyway.
I predict, I predict England to win. There you go.
Bye.
$22.
22-point win. Thank you very much. As an insight from my match predictor. Lovely. Thank you very much. Well, let's hear from the other side now. Dr. Rachel Malcolm, the Scotland captain, to tell us how they're preparing for the game against England this weekend. Rachel Malcolm, apologies. On the WRP, we always like to address people by their proper titles. So, Dr. Rachel Malcolm, how are you? Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm fantastic, thanks. I'm, you know, in camp and loving life, so can't complain.
Absolutely. Big old weekend ahead of us. I mean, have you managed to have any time on the training field this week, or has it literally been virtual Zooms, podcast, this one? I mean, you're just in such high demand, Rachel.
No, we've had a good week actually. We've been really lucky that we came into camp on Sunday, which is a lot earlier than usual. A mixture of we've got a wee bit more support from our union in that respect, but also from fitting in all the tests and all that before we play at the weekend. So we were in on Sunday, so we've had a couple of double training days. We've actually got a day off today, which has been nice. So yeah, it's been really good. The vibe's excited, and just can't wait to get going.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, we all can't. With the delayed Six Nations and what have you. I was just going to ask before coming into camp on Sunday. It's been a while since you played. How have you kept engaged with each other? How many camps have there been? Are those at weekends? Are they during the week? How's that worked?
Yeah, so it's been a wee bit kind of a different preparation to usual Six Nations because, like you say, we haven't had any games. So the girls that are based up in Scotland, which is probably about 50 to 60% of the girls, haven't played since we played France in the autumn, so they've had a long layoff. However, we have had tons of camps, which has been brilliant. The girls that are based up here have played internally pretty much every weekend since lockdown was eased,
Okay.
which is it's not much fun. You know, it's not fun smashing into your teammates every weekend, but they've been working really hard. Obviously, there's a big portion of us based down south, so we've had a bit of game time in the Premier 15s, which has been fantastic. But in terms of lead up in camps, we actually have had quite a lot because we were preparing for World Cup qualifiers. So we had actually about 3 weeks together based up here, so they kind of relocated those of us that were down south up here and prepped for that. So we had a bit of a 3-week stint, which was brilliant. Obviously those games then got cancelled, so we went back down, and then we've been up here for about a week prior to coming into camp, just to try and get a bit of a safer bubble, really, so that we were up here. But that meant also that we were training for about a week before we actually came into camp as well. So it's been, you know, obviously all the kind of restrictions and stuff that are going on at the moment actually kind of benefited us in a weird way in terms of giving us that extra time together, which we've never really had before. So it's been a really good prep.
Oh, great stuff. You guys are, most of you would be amateur players, and there's a variety of ages and what have you. Just how difficult is it with, it may not be a personal thing, but with employers to say, oh, can I have this to, oh no, hang on, that's cancelled. Oh, actually, can we move it to, I can't understand how that works. And there must just be some incredibly patient, really, really nice, adaptable, malleable people and employees out there.
It is extremely difficult. It's probably been one of the key things that's come out of this year is that it's really tough being a female rugby player at the moment, because especially this year with things changing so much and having to constantly go back and change your annual leave every week pretty much. So I guess from that point of view, it is tough, but we probably couldn't be doing what we're doing as rugby players if we didn't have very understanding employers. I've got a lot of support from my employers in particular. I'm a lecturer, so getting kind of cover with teaching very last minute, and help with bits and bobs along the way as well. And I've got a few very good friends that I work with that cover my back an awful lot, and I have a lot of IOUs to be repaid when I finish playing rugby. But no, yeah, it's more and more difficult, I must say, with kind of the way the game's moving and stuff like that to balance the two. But I'm very thankful to have a very understanding employer.
Rachel, can we have your expenses, please? Yeah, it's just a load of IOUs, sort of Dumb and Dumber style to my friends. If you could just go to them directly, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Let's get into the more positive stuff. Virtual launch the other day, new and weird, and when everybody had their mics on, it was all good and well. But that was separate. That was a first of that kind. The Six Nations is standalone by itself. Of course, we all know the reasons why, and I won't go into is it better truncated than the sort of Autumn Cup style. I think we all sort of agree that a full Six Nations is the way forward. But are you getting that sense that actually things are beginning to move, and that you won't have to have these conversations with your employers 5-10 years down the line, that actually that board is beginning to roll in that way?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's obviously different for every union, and there's loads of bits in that puzzle that probably we as players don't understand, and there's a lot that goes on behind those scenes. I think for us, and like for me, looking at the way Scottish rugby's moved forward, you know, we look back 3 years maybe, and all we had was Jade as a professional player, and now we've got 9 players who are professional. We've got more and more camps every year, so and we have, you know, more support in all different kinds of ways as well. So I'd say from my point of view, from when I started 4 or 5 years ago to now, we are in a much more professional setup and we are supported much better. So I think, you know, that shows the intention, in my opinion, going forward. And I really do hope that things do keep progressing. And I think, you know, the pandemic's maybe put a little bit of a spanner in the works with that, because obviously everyone is struggling from a financial point of view at the moment. But I think once things settle down, I really do think Scottish Rugby will push to keep improving and keep investing in the women's game, which is really exciting for players of the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. More trips to South Africa, I'm sure you'll be more than happy to click into those. Look, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the weekend. Really exciting squad on paper. A few highlights for you in that squad. Obviously, there's a few incumbents like yourself, regulars, but take us through a couple of the newer, fresher names that people may not be so familiar with. Yeah,
so Christine Beliel is a new kind of fresh face into the squad. She got her first cap when we were out in South Africa. We've obviously not played a huge amount of rugby since then, so she has actually been in the squad a while, but not got maybe as many caps as she'd like. But she's a back row convert into the front row. She's a big, powerful ball carrier and just an absolute workhorse. So she's an exciting player to watch. Rachel Mclachlan is generally plays open side flanker. She's a bit of a terrier. If I was to liken her to any player, it'd probably be Hamish Watson. And she's quite exciting to watch and very annoying to play against. So I'm definitely glad she's on my team. And then in the back, you've got the likes of Rachel Shanklin, who got her first cap against France and obviously had a massive impact on that game. But she will hope to keep pushing forward with that and improve on that and get a bit more experience as well, because she's obviously not played as much as, again, we would have liked by this point. And then you've got the usual suspects, you know, Chloe Rowley at fullback's just so kind of dangerous with ball in hand. And if we get that to her, then I'm excited to see how she goes. And you know, Helen Nelson, Lisa Thompson, Hannah Smith in the midfield have been influential for us in previous seasons, and I really hope to see them kind of take that forward this year as well.
Great stuff. You mentioned that game against France. Yeah, that was a tremendous performance. Really, really good result from you. And I know we had Goose, Philip Doyle on the pod when he was in the job, and sadly stepped away due to the coronavirus. And the brides come in, and it just seems to be a real swelling. And a lot of players in the Premier 15s, I think, improving that general standard across the board. What are you? How are you going to make sure that momentum continues come Saturday, 3 o'clock?
I think, you know, one of the biggest things that was probably holding us back previously was ourselves. I think we went into games, we didn't believe in ourselves. We didn't have the right mindset, especially going into game versus the likes of England, who I consider to be probably the best team in the world at the moment. And I think that's been a big change for us. Our mindset's completely changed, and our focus is much more on ourselves, but in a positive light. I think that's a big thing. So you know you're going to come up and be put under immense pressure against a team like England, but it's how you manage that and how you perceive that pressure. And I think just remaining together and sticking to the game plan, and you know, kind of not falling away from that even when the times are tough and you're up against it, as you know you're going to be against England. And I think that belief that we can kind of push through those times, like we showed against France, shows that we are in a better place. But people have talked about France quite a lot, which is great, but we don't want to just be a one performance team. You know, we want to perform consistently at that level. So this gives us a really good opportunity. You know, we're playing, as I say, probably the best team in the world at the moment, and it's a massive opportunity for us to go and see where we're at and try and compete at that level again and do the best we can and keep pushing forward.
Well, we're all certainly hoping for slightly better conditions from the last time that you met England in the snowstorm. But you'll be packing down without your old chum, Jay Conkle. She's gone off for a little sabbatical to train as a firefighter. Just how integral to success is that battle of the back row?
Yeah, I think, you know, the back row for me is always a great battle in any game. I obviously would say that because I play there. But
I asked the question,
no,
really.
I think, you know, particularly for England, you know, their back row is always a real strength for them. You've got the likes of Sunter coming back from injury, and she'll be absolutely just chomping at the bit to get back in an England shirt, I'm sure. So she'll be a tough character to keep quiet. And someone I'm quite familiar with, so it's always fun to play against your club teammates. And then you've got players like, you know, Marley Packer, Alex Matthews as well, who's doing a bit of 15s, obviously, alongside our 7s, who are just so kind of dangerous with ball in hand, dangerous around that breakdown, that you've really got to keep quiet if you want to be successful. So for us, like, that is going to be a big battle. But as I said before, you know, the likes of WRP, Mclachlan, and other players coming through. So you mentioned Jade obviously isn't going to be there, but we've got, you know, players stepping up and training, the likes of Siwan Lillicrap, who's not got as much experience, but she's, you know, quite a like for Jade in terms of she's a big ball carrier, big tackler. You've got other players, you know, Louise McMillan, who's got a load of experience as well. Players like that coming through. So I'm sure it will be a big battle, and I'm excited to see all these girls go.
Great stuff. Last question for me. I'm conscious of your time. What is a busy old week. You mentioned her there, Madame Sarah Hunter, MBE. You know she gets really narky if you don't mention the MBE. What is it like on the field when you're dark blue navy against the white? Are there a few little words? Is there an extra little have that coach? You know, is that kind of thing goes on, or is it just all very polite and nice?
Oh, I don't think either of us are those kind of players. You know, I think as well, when you're in the heat of battle, you don't even know who's running at you or who's run at you or whatever it is. You know, it's just get your head down and get on with it, especially against England, where you don't really have a chance to breathe anyway. So no, there's not a huge amount that goes on anyway from me. So no, it's just, you know, good. It's good fun, and it's nice, especially seeing as we've been away for so long, to have a game against people we're familiar with.
Very last question.
Go for it.
What is? I got to say what constitutes success of the weekend, and I suspect you'd say win, because of that really interesting answer early on about you believing in yourselves even against the likes of England. But what's the very least to accept come Saturday?
The least to accept, I don't think it would be scoreline orientated. I think it would be performance orientated. I think if we get our systems right defensively in particular, that would be a kind of minimum standard for us. I think when we played them last year, we brought a lot of intent and intensity, but our systems were poor. We didn't get our detail right, and that left them, you know, a lot of space out wide. And then when we did get that numbers on out wide, it left them a lot of space to run through us in the middle as well. So for me, a minimum standard would be to get our defensive systems right. So not just bring that energy and that intent, but actually have that detail as well. So for me, that's really key for the weekend. Great
stuff. Brilliant. We will leave it there. Thank you so much, Dr. Rachel Malcolm. Absolutely brilliant to speak to you. What was a really busy week for you, and we wish you all the very, very best for Saturday. Go well.
Cheers, Johnny.
Thanks so much. Take care.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, we like to cover off all the bases here on the WRP, don't we, Berth? And we must speak about the other nations. Let's start with Ireland. What do you make of their squad announcement? Few uncapped players in there.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity, a bit like with England. They've got some of their sevens representatives coming in and being involved. Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe, one of the players who's been outstanding on the World 7 Series, the opportunity to come and see what she can do in a 15 shirt, same with Stacey Flood. So yeah, it's, you know, I would say, you know, the core of Ireland's squad is very strong, and then bringing in some uncapped, or sorry, not necessarily uncapped, but players that haven't been in and around that environment so much, to add to that, could be a really exciting time for that squad. And, you know, listening to some of the players like Sene Napu, she's talked about how close this squad is at the moment, and also Lindsay Peat about the depth that this squad has gone to stay connected, to work as hard as they can. Still, you know, they go into camp on a Friday evening all the way through to a Sunday evening. And so they are really, really looking forward to kind of moulding everything that they've done over the last few months to put into this performance this weekend and throughout. Well, not this weekend, they're not playing this weekend, but throughout the new format of the Six Nations. I think it's an exciting place to be. We know that Ireland are an incredibly talented side. So it'd be interesting to see how this squad mould together and perform.
Yeah, obviously not playing this weekend. We will get an Irish guest on next week to drill down on them a little bit more. They've got a couple of injuries to worry about. Cooney, Adele McMahon, Larissa Muldoon as well. yeah, not great to have those experienced players injured, but yeah, everybody has their injury concerns as well. But it's a familiar looking squad. But as you say, they've made huge commitments, haven't they? These girls to, as you say, stay connected. Weekends, full weekends away. Most of them have got jobs Monday to Friday. It's an unbelievable commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think all of them have jobs Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. And yeah, look, it's a really tough place to be in. I've been there, I've done that, and it's incredibly hard. And it's not just the weekend work that they're doing, it's during the week. They're doing regional skills stuff, their weight sessions, their running session, their speed sessions. It really does add up. But I think what that shows is just the passion and the love that they have, and they're committed to it. You know, they're also, remember, they haven't qualified for the Rugby World Cup, so every performance, every bit that they put into training is all about that as well. So yeah, and I think that's part of the reason probably why they've got so close. They're fighting for so much all the time, that naturally brings you back, brings you close together as a unit.
They start up next weekend with Wales away, and then France at home. That's probably the way you'd want those two fixes.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, look, I think we're going to see a different Wales squad. I do genuinely think we're going to have a different looking Welsh squad, which is great. But I think out of the two, you know that France is probably still stronger. So being able to have some of those internal games to play against each other, because, you know, the majority of the Irish girls haven't played rugby. Not many of them are in, well, there's a few of them in the Allianz Premier 15s, but not a lot, not like Scotland or Wales. So it'd be great opportunities for them to play a full-fledged fixture before going into France, knowing that they're probably the tougher of the two.
There's a little look at Ireland. As you say, we'll a little bit more in depth with Ireland next week ahead of that game against Wales. Italy. Have you been bending the ear of your chum Giada Franco? Who's coming?
Just a little bit.
Who's coming on next week? By the way,
of course.
Week.
Yeah, no, Italy. You know, they've had quite a difficult time. All their training's been suspended, and throughout the last 3 or 4 months, they've had very limited time together. So, you know, for them, they're coming from a very different place than maybe some of, definitely from the other teams who are involved. But, you know, Italy are everybody's nemesis, really. They're the type of team that you do one thing in analysis about them and they produce something completely different. But I do think, you know, not having the amount of contact time together as a group and, you know, regular training fixtures will play a big part in their preparation to how they go in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they even suspended training at the weekend because of a COVID case, and there's talks of moving the game to Palma, slightly more COVID secure. So, like, it's a very fluid situation. We know that. But one thing they can always rely on is that passion, that never say die attitude. I know, as you say, they're a bogey team, especially for England, because it just brings so much physicality and passion.
Yeah, it's really true, and it comes back to that. They've always been so unpredictable. Like, I'm going back like 10 years. The same conversations happen. Like, you think they're going to do this, and they literally do something else. And I remember Claire Allen, she would always bring it up. She'd be like, watch out for the random kicks. But they're not random, you know, they're well thought out, they're well trained by the opposition, but they would just, you know, pull things out that would just completely throw you off because you've not prepared for that. And that's why they throw off teams. So, yeah, again, not great preparation, but they certainly will be, you know, a difficult side to beat, as always.
Yeah, home to England next weekend is they've got to bye this weekend. Following weekend, England at home. Not quite sure where that's going to be, and then Scotland away in round 3 before the playoffs. As I say, Giada Franco next week, and she will give us a little bit more in-depth news as to how everything's going. They've got some time, haven't they, with these cases at the moment? But yeah, we wish them all the best in their preparation. We're just going to talk about France now, Berth. I mean, should we just hold the entire conversation in French?
No, that's not fair to our listeners, Johnny.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, no, you're quite That's so selfless of you, Beth. I know we all know that you could hold a conversation, no problem in French, but for the listeners, it's so selfless. It's so selfless.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
What did you make of France? France, 35 player squad. Yeah, plenty of experience now. Gelhameg is captaining the squad, but yeah, not that many surprises, but quality throughout.
Yeah, it's a settled side, isn't it? It's experienced, as you say. It's got all the household names involved, and yeah, always look forward to the fixtures that France play. But you know, they have their own nemesis and bogeys throughout the Six Nations. You know, they always find Wales a difficult side to play against. Obviously, you look back against the Scotland game. So, and then you look at the England game where, you know, England completely wipe them away, and then they come over here in the autumn and push it right close where maybe they deservedly should have won that second autumn test. So, yeah, it's always exciting to watch France and see how they go. You know, I really hope we see a consistent performance from them, because that's going to be the greatest games to watch and be a part of. And look, I'm not going to lie, I am looking forward to hopefully seeing an England-France match within this setup, but you just don't know what's going to happen. I think two players I'm really excited to look forward to watching play is Sansus. I think she's been outstanding over the last couple of years, really pulling the strings and bringing France alive. And Barnett, the winger, I think she's one of the most outstanding and underrated players within English women's rugby at the moment. So, are you laughing at my French pronunciations?
No, not at all. Barnett's on a wing. Hey?
Hey, let me be me.
Love it. And Pauline Bourdon. No, I think Berthwick, no apologies for linking the men and women's game and comparing it in some instances, but a lot of chat about the psyche of the men's French team changing. Mr. Sean Edwards coming in there. Is that France's main problem? You know, you think back to games you say in the autumn when actually, whether it be a Lydia Thompson try at Sandy Park or a last minute, you know, that Scotland try just to draw that game up. Is that their biggest issue? Because I don't think there's any complaint that there's quality virtually in every position through the side. Is that their biggest work on?
Yeah, I think that's a big area that I hope that they do work on, because like you said, the talent that they have and the ability that they have is unbelievable. But it's that mental pressure. It's that finishing a game out, knowing when to play, when not to play. You know, you look at the weekend with last weekend with the men's French game, you know, fullback trying to just play again, but not understanding how to manage in those times. And I think that's a big area that you would have thought game management, game understanding, that they want to try and work towards. You know, sometimes you've got to be a bit boring to close games out and to win them. And so, yeah, I'd like to think that they're working on their psyche, that side of the mental side of thing. And just, yeah, you just see it slip away from them. You see, you know, they get a foothold in the game, and then all of a sudden a couple of people switch off or think, you know, the job's done and, oh, it doesn't matter. And the body language can sometimes look like that with the French players. Like, it's like, oh, well. And I think, you know, they need to turn that around, and they need to bring, you know, the performances that they can do. They've got to be able to do that for 80 minutes, because they are a side that can beat anybody, whether that's New Zealand, England, and come World Cups, they will be in those quarterfinals, they will be in those semi-finals, but they've never had that mental edge to get over. And that's something that they need to be looking at for the next 12 months.
Does lack of crowd affect them the most out of the Six Nations teams?
Well, only if they're playing at home, you know.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah. France, Wales at the weekend, Saturday. Yeah, I mean, there obviously no crowd there.
Yeah, no, I think it does make a big difference to them. But, you know, you look at how England played against them away. Was that in Po? Last Six Nations?
Yeah.
I think it was in Po, yeah. And, you know, the crowd was unbelievable. But I don't think they understand how much their crowd give the opposition energy as well. And it lifts them and pushes them. So, yeah, look, I think they do play really well when they do have a crowd. But hopefully, you know, they would have learned to play without them over the last few months.
Well, of course, yeah, we're talking about France, who host Wales at the weekend. It would be remiss not to get a little bit of news and insight into Wales. Delighted to be joined by Siwan Lillicrap, now the Wales captain, to give us the inside scoops, hopefully, on what's going on in Wales ahead of their game against France at the weekend. Siwan, thank you so much for joining us on the WRP. It's been a week of media, so we won't keep you too long. How was the virtual launch for you yesterday?
It was a different experience, but obviously the new norm pretty much. We've been living online, haven't we, since last March, essentially. But yeah, it was great. It was great to see the other captains and, you know, have a Q&A and get, you know, see how they've been going as well over the last few months. And it was great, you know, to talk about our journey and where we've been at since pre-COVID, essentially, and now something to really look forward to in kicking off our campaigns this weekend. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there's not going to be any Paxman-like questions here. We just want to check in with you guys, see where everyone's at. From the outside, it seems like really exciting times. The reason I mentioned the launch is because it was the first time that there was a Women's Six Nations launch by itself. Obviously, the tournament standalone by itself now. Your personal views on that? Big opportunity?
Yeah, that's my personal view. It's a big opportunity. You know, we're grateful that we've got the opportunity to play this season, and you know, it's been a long time coming. Essentially, as Wales, we were preparing for a Scotland fixture from last year's Six Nations back in September, October, which was cancelled eventually, to then be back in early Jan prepping when Six Nations got postponed. So we're just really grateful now to be able to put everything we've done on the training pitch into reality, into a game. You know, that's what we all train for, is to play those games and go into those battles. And you know, it's an opportunity for hopefully the media to get behind us. You know, it's really exciting that it's on BBC iPlayer, and the nation of Wales and you know, other countries to get behind this tournament. And see what women's rugby is about, and see how it's grown, it's continuing to develop, and it's an exciting brand of rugby. So hopefully we get some real good exposure. And the exciting bit is, you know, you've got that Super Saturday type finish in that final weekend that anyone could almost cause an upset throughout those first few weeks. And that final weekend might not look like everyone's predicting. So, you know, for us as Wales, that's really exciting, and it's an opportunity to challenge other nations and see where we really measure up.
You said something interesting yesterday, that obviously this is the 2D world that we're living in, and we're slowly easing our way out of it. But you said that actually it brought your squad closer, because actually, you know, talking to people was really intense, and you had that one-on-one time, or even that sort of intense time together you possibly wouldn't do when you're sort of together. How important is that going to be coming into a Six Nations?
I think it's going to be hugely important. You know, what COVID has made us do is think about things differently and think outside the box, and challenge ourselves in a different way. And to be fair, you know, Warren's come in and he's embraced that and really, really challenged us. But yeah, you know, we've really tapped into essentially our whys, our meanings as individuals, what we want to achieve, and shared that as a group, which, you know, in maybe a normal world where we are in each other's presence quite a bit, we might not have picked up those conversations. So it's made us chat about different things, really, to understand each other better, which hopefully will transfer now into performance and really help our performance. Because, you know, unity, cohesion, and understanding each other in a team sport is probably underrated, but actually hugely, hugely important to go to battle together, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's touch on Warren. He's come in from the Sevens. yeah, the squad has got a bit of freshness to it. We'll talk about players in just a second, if you don't mind. But what's Warren bringing to the party that is slightly different?
I think it's just a breath of fresh air, to be honest. You know, Warren is full of innovation, full of ideas, and is all about unity and culture as well. And you know, what he does like to do as well is challenge us as players, and probably been challenged in ways that we haven't been before. You know, a lot of responsibility lies on us, which is great. Allows us to make decisions, which is fantastic. You know, we've got to make decisions on the field, so empowering us to make those other decisions throughout the week and in the training environment and off the field is really, really important. You know, he's challenged me as a leader in ways I haven't been challenged before, which is brilliant, because it's made me think about myself differently. It's made me reflect on myself differently, and put me in uncomfortable positions where I'm going to be in a game day situation, or, you know, away from game day as well. But yeah, you know, we've had to prove our worth, which is brilliant. You know, it's an honour to represent Wales. It's an honour to represent in the Women's Six Nations, and it's not a given. And you know, what we've probably tapped into is realising that even more, how much of a privileged position we're in, and we absolutely are, and we're really grateful to be where we are, and we're super excited to show really where we've come, not just obviously since Warren, but you know, at the end of last Six Nations and through summer, you know, the girls are putting in a lot of hard graft away from the environment, obviously at that point with a focus on World Cup, but to bring that to life now over the next month, we're really looking forward to.
It would be remiss if we didn't just touch on Rachel Taylor. It would be unfair to put you on the spot and sort of give a personal kind of point of view, but it's not ideal. And yeah, a lady of such incredible respect in the women's game, it's left a hole, I suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I know Rachel as she was a teammate, a captain when I first, you know, went into Wales, and hugely respected captain and leader. She's a great person and a friend. And yeah, you know, the girls would be gutted, obviously, to see Rachel go, but we wish her well, and I'm sure Rachel will succeed in whatever she does next.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do wish her all the very, very best. Talking about players then, just looking at your squad, really nice blend between some youth and some real form players playing really, really well in the Premier 15s, and then some experience back. And I think of the likes of friend of the pod, Shona Powell-Hughes, who's been out of the squad a little bit, got herself in tremendous condition back in the squad. Your take on that squad on the mix?
I think it's super exciting. You know, we were a young squad in 2019 in the Six Nations last year, 2020. A lot of new caps that season across the board, 15 plus. So, you know, those girls now, what's exciting is newly capped that season, but many of those have been playing for Allianz 15s teams throughout this season. So they would have got better exposure, played lots of rugby going into this tournament. Couple of new caps in there as well, exciting new caps, which I'm looking forward to seeing them go and you know, sharing that journey with them, because it's a special time receiving that first cap. And then, as you say, bringing some other girls back in, you know, Shona, one of those, and she's worked incredibly hard over lockdown and beyond lockdown, as you said, to get into great shape. So, you know, Shona's a great addition there, and likes of Carol Thomas coming back in as well with some experience. So we brought a little bit of experience back in, plus obviously all of our new caps from a season ago, and then a couple of new caps again. So it's an exciting squad. The exciting bit is, you know, Warren's having headaches now with selection with that type of strength and depth, and players on form in the Premier 15s, which is outstanding.
Yeah, nice headaches to have. Possibly something that Wales kind of possibly boasted in the past. Just a couple more from me. If you don't know that Welsh squad particularly well, give us one player to look out for that possibly people won't know quite so much about. That's a bit on the spot, isn't it?
Oh, that has. I didn't expect that question.
Yay, got her.
Yeah. There's a couple I want to name, but
go on. That's fine. I'll give you two.
So one player, uncapped player, Meg Davies has just joined the squad, young scrum half, Exeter Chiefs. Yeah, she's one for the future, absolutely. Courtney Keat, only 2 caps Courtney's got, I believe it is, but has been playing on the wing for Bristol this year, and has probably stamped her ground in that, so changed position from maybe 13 before, and has played outstanding actually for Bristol this year. So those 2 are probably watches and can set the field alight.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. We will keep an eye out for them. Then France. We just wrap things up as I throw my microphone around. France. I'm getting all excited for the game already. I'm not even playing. What it's going to be different, isn't it? Because the France play off their crowd, can get put off their game by the crowd. There isn't going to be a crowd there. But what do you expect from France? And it's going to be double-layered discussion, I'm afraid. What are you expecting from France? And is it the best time to have them first up? Are you hoping to do a sort of Argentina against New Zealand, where you guys haven't played for so long, and you rip into that first game?
I think you nailed that, Johnnie. I think we're excited to have them as our first game for 2 reasons. They're a great side, one of the best sides in the world. To challenge ourselves against that type of opposition first up is something we want to relish and actually challenge ourselves. And yeah, they haven't played much rugby. They're, so maybe they wouldn't have had a game to settle into before we face them. France is always tough in France. So that's an advantage to having them first. They won't have their crowds, but we're absolutely expecting a physical battle. They've got some great athletes, great players that can, are multi-talented across the field, like ball carrying, kicking. They're multi-dimensional. They love counter-attacking. They love thriving off other teams' mistakes. So, we need to be crisp there. But, it's always that physical contact in the breakdowns, and then they move the ball. So, we've got to be on our game, absolutely. But, we've prepped well for that. And, as I've said this week, Warren's brought in a different brand of rugby for us, and an exciting brand, which gives us some freedom to play, essentially. So hopefully what you'll see from a Wales squad this weekend as well is a little bit of a different style of play, and a little bit more of moving the ball and actually challenging opposition. So it'd be interesting to see how France deal with us as well. So but it will be a great battle, that's for sure.
Oh, it will. And your last answers not only is a great promo for the game, but also as give me lots of other thoughts for questions. But look, we will wrap it up there. We're doing a whistle stop tour around the home units, and I really, really appreciate you finding the time this week, because it's been a really busy week, and I wish you all the very best against France. And we'll be watching on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Johnnie. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on here.
Great stuff. Thanks so much. Go well.
Take care of yourself.
Cheers, and you. Bye. On to the Principality then, Berth. I've just got a little feeling that they're going to be uber competitive.
Oh, yeah. When aren't Wales competitive? They're a side that we do talk about it with most nations having this passion, but there's something in the Welsh waters that really does bring it alive.
But what I meant by that, Berth, was actually some, and again, I greatest respect, but actually some depth behind that. We're talking just a second about the news last week, which was bizarre and strange. But Warren Abraham's coming in. Rachel Taylor was there. Some more experienced players come back into the squad. There just seems to be a sense of Wales really, really growing in all areas.
Yeah, do you know what I think it is? I think it feels like they have a real purpose now. It's not like, oh, we're going to prep for the Six Nations because, it's coming up. It's, you know what, we're going to invest. We're going to bring in full-time coach. We're going to have a program in place. We're looking at our sevens as well. And I think that in itself makes all the players buy into something even more so. And having that purpose and having that goal and having that opportunity, you know, looking ahead to that World Cup, this has done Wales a big favour it being postponed as well. It allows Warren to really come in and to learn and understand players. He's been watching all the Premier 15s games, finding where his Welsh players are that haven't been involved in the squad for whatever reason. You know, Beth Dainton being one of them has been outstanding for Harlequins. You know, has been left out for whatever reason over the last few years. Sees her playing a Quinn shirt, brings her back in, adds huge value. Same with Gemma Rowland. You know, these players that have real amounts of talent and experience added to some of the players who are already, you know, Eleanor Snowstill, who's kind of, you know, your solid key players within that side. But yeah, I think, you know, Warren, for anybody who doesn't know him, you know, he's a coach that does things slightly differently. So I think you're going to see some different creativity from the side, some real connection with the group, and that purpose can do so much for a side.
I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's you're valued, your worth is here, because this is the commitment we're making to it, and that, you know, that hasn't been there before from the WRU, and it is now, and it's there black and white, and people can be made accountable to it. Let's carry on with the squad. I'm with you. I think he's gone out and looked, hasn't he, for those players. You know, Jess Roberts, a sales scrum half. He's got obviously looked out and seen what she's been up to. Till Wynne Jones as well, the sale prop. Flo Williams, of course, Perception Agency, friend of the pod. Really delighted to see her in the ranks. Donna Rose as well. Gemma Rowland comes back in. So yeah, there's a few experienced heads. And again, another friend of the pod, Shona Powell Hughes in that squad. He hasn't been afraid, I think, because he hasn't been involved in the setup. He's coming in afresh, and it seemed like quite a closed shop. Yeah, people were selected when they possibly shouldn't have been, and unless you're in Wales, you can't be selected, and that kind of. I think he smashed that apart and said, "Well, I'm just getting the best players to play for Wales. If you're on form, if I like you, bang, you're in the squad."
Yeah, I think what he's done is broken down any barriers to get players, to get talent. And instead of making things difficult for a side that, you know, needs acceleration in this area. And, you know, I think what he's come in, he's gone, right, it's a blank canvas. No one's in until you play yourself in. And you've got to earn your right when you're in there. And I think, you know, that naturally will breed competitiveness, that will make players work hard, want to come in best form, prepare the best that they can, and you know, that hunger and that belief and that desire. When you've got a coach that's like that, that's kind of like, look, an opportunity is right here in front of you. You've got to take it though. And I think when you get that message over to players, if they want it, they'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, question marks over Kira Bevan. That would be a loss at scrum half, whether she's fit or not. So all this positivity then, Berth, real shock, the departure of Rachel Taylor.
Yeah, like I can't get my head around it. Not sure what's gone on there. Really disappointing. You know, she's a player she's not a player. She's a coach that is so qualified for that position. And to see her go is a real disappointment. And just knowing how she has been as a leader and a captain, from speaking to players that she's that have been under her as their captain, it is a big loss. You know, I've spoken to a couple of the Welsh players off the record, and it's the same for them. They're disappointed, they're shocked, and yeah, it'll be interesting what comes out. You know, Rachel has always worked for the WRU, so has always had their back, and so it'd be interesting what happens if there's a press release that comes out, or she speaks out, or maybe there's nothing, you know, sinister about any of this. But who knows? But I think a few people are interested if she's going to go for that Bristol head coach job.
Oh, yeah, thought about that one. I get ya. No, I think.
But Wales is their dream job, though. So, you know,
or perhaps go off and get some club experience and and then come back in a few years' time. I know Bristol are properly getting behind the women's side now. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I don't think we'll hear any more on why, certainly on the record anyway. But yeah, I think her influence goes too far to say actually that might affect the team this weekend. Actually, somewhere deep in the mental, because that's how much influence she has.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I'd like to hope not. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Rachel certainly wouldn't want that. She would be like, look, this is the situation. You know, we've had some great preparation. Go out and do it justice. And, you know, Warren would be very much all over that as well.
Prediction then?
Well, I don't think you can look past France. I think we will see a different Welsh side. I think we'll all see a more competitive, more tactical, awareness side. But I don't think they have yet the physicality or the power to match and dominate France. But who knows? Who knows? But I'm going to go with France.
Yeah. Absolutely. So just a reminder of the Women's Six Nations fixtures for this weekend, 3 o'clock at Castle Park from Pool A, England against Scotland, live on the BBC iPlayer. And later on Saturday, 8 o'clock kickoff, again, live on the BBC iPlayer and BBC Wales as well. France take on Wales. Loads of news this week. Birth, exciting Women's Six Nations. Community rugby here in England is back. Big news. People can't wait. Get in touch with us. Let us know what you're up to this weekend in terms of playing. Actually, do you know what? Better still, let us know Sunday, Monday how the bodies are feeling. Wonder how the bodies are feeling for some of these Premier 15 teams at weekends, because it was a massive weekend, some really big fixtures. Must start. The only place really to start is the top two. And we often say there's not much between you two. And at the weekend, there was literally nothing between you two.
Yeah, what a great game that it was. Really tight game throughout. I think during the whole game, you couldn't massively call it. I think there was a period where second half Harlequins came out and I think that they were on top. And I thought, you know what, we're going to run away with this. But, you know, Saracens stayed in the fight. Both teams, you know, in their own 22s, the amount of turnovers, yeah, and they're two areas that both teams are normally really successful in. They get into those areas, they're often coming away with points, but both teams defended so well. And that last penalty, really unfortunate, which allowed, you know, good management, understanding that a draw will keep them at the top at the moment, should they continue to wish to win the rest of their games. And yeah, to finish the game like that was a real shame.
Swap it round, because Leanne Riley had scored that little cheeky try right through the middle, and then as you say, the last minute penalty for Zoe Harrison, 80th minute or 70th minute, I should say. If you're captain, would you have made the same choice in those circumstances, or would you have gone for the corner?
Well, it depends, because if we're sitting first at the top of the table,
yeah, if you're Saracens in that position,
yeah, I think, look, like I said, I think both teams in getting into the position of the 22, you know, normally you back both teams to kick to the corner, drive them more and get it over, whereas both teams are causing real trouble for both of for the opposition in those areas, and in fact turning things over and not getting those tries. So I think you have to measure up where you've been successful in that area. Zoe Harrison, knowing that she's going to slot that 3 points, you know, a fairly easy kick by her standards in front of the post. And that then takes the draw, and then you stay at the top of the table, and the rest is still in your hands. So I think it was the right decision. I think had you been dominant and really successful in that area, you might have gone, do you know what, we can go for this, we can go for the win, we back that. So yeah, I've gone for that decision as well.
Yeah, Eddie Green kicked nicely again, one of those New England development players. Free Fletcher with a try. Saracens played, so of course May Campbell scored. Just goes hand in hand. So yeah, 17 all it was between the top two in the league. The other big old game, wasn't it? There's this battle that's brewing in behind, really, that now third, as Loughborough against Exeter down at Sandy Park. Tough old affair.
Yeah, it was always going to be a really physical and tight battle between the two. I think Loughborough didn't start very well, and that something about Exeter, when they get going, they become an extraordinary side to be able to stop, because they get that belief and they buy into what they do, and they can continue to do things very well, and that's sometimes really difficult to then stop when a team is kind of on the rampage. But great character to show that Loughborough did pull it back, and that will give them the confidence that they need, that they can be in the fight and push teams. And, you know, give another 10 minutes, we could have been looking at a different result.
Yeah, but they did the same to you, didn't they? Charged back up at Loughborough. I said to Emily Scout scoring a couple of tries. It seems to time those comebacks a little bit too late. But yeah, 17-12 it was to the Chiefs. A fair play to them, because they needed to win that to stay in the hunt with only a couple of games left. So fair play to Susie Appleby's side. Wasps 50, Sale Sharks. Neil Lillicrap with a couple of tries. Maud Muir with a hat-trick. Decent week for her. Hat-trick, and call up to the England squad as a development player. Wasps continuing to do what we expect from them right now, especially against a team like Sale.
Yeah, and it was also really good to see, you know, the likes of Flo Williams getting an opportunity to start and play, especially with her call up with Wales. So it was great for her. But yeah, I think we're just seeing the Wasps continue from their form where they've been. Maud Muir, I mean, she is a very young, exciting prospect for the future of England. Part of the under-20s, and now, you know, one of the England development players that having in the camps. It's awesome to see, and you know, we've longed for young, exciting talent to come along, but it's here, and we're seeing the lights of it there.
Well, we're back to Saturday in a second, but Sunday's game was a cracker at Six Ways. Really, really was. I had the privilege of being there with Laura Keats. A hell of a game. I mean, very nervy couple of opening minutes, and then Worcester played some of the best rugby they played all season.
Yeah, we spoke about it last week, didn't we, Johnny? The fact that I think Bristol's they're not in a great place at the moment, and Worcester have been improving week on week out. You know, having that close loss the week before. And it's great to see they have so much talent within their side, and I think you're starting to see that gel, that responsibility from all the players doing their role, doing their job, to allow them to get themselves into a position where they're absolutely free flowing and playing really well. I think they'll be disappointed with, you know, allowing Bristol to come back that well and to bring it within kind of a score. But yeah, like, again, another great fixture that people can look forward to, and people can't necessarily call one way or the other. And, you know, and that's the beauty of this, is that every week, you know, when we're doing our prediction, it's like, oh, could it be, couldn't it be? And so just, yeah, another great game for the league as a whole.
Yeah, hat-trick for Carmen Schmeling. I certainly made a hat-trick for her anyway. I'm not sure the officials made of it. Yeah, and a cracking score for Jade Checkles. Really was a thing of beauty. And Simi Pam comes on and changes it, yellow card. Extraordinary. Super doctor, super rugby player. Absolutely brilliant. DMP 7, Gloucester Hartbury 38. Much closer of a scoreline, with the greatest respect.
Yeah, I guess that's a way to look at it. Yeah, I think, you know, it was a brilliant try that DMP scored. It was an outstanding try. But it's kind of like you need more of those moments, and how they create those opportunities they need to do more of, to be competitive, to push sides. But, you know, Gloucester Hartbury, you know, even without a few of their starting players, they are definitely driving, you know, on a high scale now. They're pushing sides. they're pushing the top four as well at times, but they just can't kind of finish. And I think, you know, in these games, they're learning how to perform for the entire 70 minutes and not just have parts of their game where they're performing really well. So, yeah, really another good, strong performance for Gloucester Hartpury.
And I think you made a really salient point there, that actually this is what, there's plenty of reasons, but that's one of the reasons I put my finger on, is that ability to be able to play your game for longer periods. And I spoke to Joe Yapp about this in the week with Worcester. 10, 15 minutes, they could be great, as they were against Bristol at the weekend. But then you fall away for 10, 15 minutes and the game goes away for you because it's such a competitive league. But staying in the game is one of those main points that the likes of you and Saracens do so well. Yeah,
absolutely. And that takes, you know, experience, it takes time, and it's not something that you can it just happens. You know, it's playing in tight games, you know, high pressured situations and managing those, but, you know, reflecting on them as well. So those 10, 15 minutes that you talk about, making sure that players are looking at that, understanding why it worked for that, and then try and replicate it again for the next 5 minutes and then the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, DMP against Wasps. Suspect Exeter fans will be cheering on DMP because they will need results to go their way. I'll need to get a couple of bonus points in their last two fixtures as well, against Sale and Gloucester Hartpury. Wasps all but qualified, really. So the table was Saracens, I say, on 69, Harlequins is behind on 63, Wasps, that game in hand, which against DMP this weekend, on 56. So you're thinking that's probably going to get up to 61. Loughborough fourth on 54, Exeter 48, Gloucester Hartpury 45, Worcester 28, Bears 22, Sale 15, and Durham yet to get off the mark. So how are your predictions for last week, Beth?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
No bad.
I think we're level now then, because...
Well, no, because I won the week before.
You won the week before, I won this week.
How did you win this week?
Because I went for Exeter.
Right. Yeah. You went for Bristol. I went for Worcester.
No, I went Worcester. I went Worcester all day long. It's written in stone. Listen back to it. Listen back to it. There you go. We're one all, as it were. But Tom, our team has got weird and wonderful scoring, so we'll just leave him to do that. But yeah, 1-1. Away from England, the news from around the oval world. Big news coming out of New Zealand, Perth. The Blues and Chiefs creating history by putting teams together from those franchises. This historic game will be played. Where else would you play a historic game like this in New Zealand? But Eden Park on Saturday, the 1st of May. Anna Richards involved in the Blues, set up. Wonderful player that she was. And Latoya Mason, your old chum, Red Rose's Scrum Half World Cup winner, on the Chiefs coaching team.
Yeah, that's such a great step and development in New Zealand. You know, everybody talks about Super Rugby and how excited it is. So it's great that the women are now part of that. And I'm really chuffed for Latoya Mason. She's going to be a huge asset to the Chiefs.
And what I like about that, Beth, is obviously there's other franchises, aren't there? The Highlanders and what have you. And actually, it almost forces their hand to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the right route. You know, we talk all the time about not just doing things for the sake of doing them or how the men have done them. And, you know, maybe building it out with two teams is the right way and making that a really exciting franchise, just the two of them, and then building it out for the future. But yeah, it does, like anything, you know, we see it in our Allianz Premier 15. Clubs are looking in. They want to be a part of it. So, yeah, it can only be a really good thing.
And in Europe?
Yeah, so the Europe Rugby Committee and subcommittee members decided of 45 members for 26 unions, 10 will be female, and Nikki Ponsford from the English Rugby Football Union will be the chair of the women's subcommittee.
Indeed so. Canada, some inductees to their Rugby Canada Hall of Fame. 29 captain Leslie Cripps. Remember meeting her on that roundabout in the bar in Paris, 2014. We shared a beer together. What a character she is. As well as Moria Shields, Josie Lacante. She 3 World Cups, I think Josie put together. And that 2014 side we just been talking about that they got to the final. It's put into the Rugby Canada Hall of Fame. Other news, Berth, this week, and a little bit like the fantasy league going on with the Women's Six Nations. These things are traditionally just involved with the men's game. Coming into the women's game, yep, we are partnering with Match Pint for the first ever time. There is a prediction game for the Women's Six Nations. The Pint Predictor is a game on the free Match Pint app, which is available on your iPhone or Android, of course. There's an awesome way to make every game of the tournament even more exciting and get rewarded for being right with some of their great rugby prizes. You can play against your friends or join a private league. Our private league code is TWRP. That's TWRP on the Match Pint app. And there's your chance to take on Berth, to take on I. As you heard earlier, we get slightly competitive about these predictions. So, yeah, yeah, right. You're an international player for as long as you are, Berth. That means yeah, you can take Berth and I on. There's some awesome prizes up for grabs, including dozens of the Six Nations tickets for 2022, of course. Ultimate Guinness home viewing bundles, including beers and glasses and shirts and snacks, slippers, bunting even, and loads of great Guinness rugby stash as well. So do get involved. Match Pint Predictor on their app, and the code is TWRP. We will see you there. Must just give a shout out to those amateur clubs who've been in contact with us. Of course, lots of people returning, not only this week during the week to amateur rugby, but at the weekend as well. Amateur Harlequins, West Park Leeds, Yeovil Rugby Club, back Tuesday and Thursday. So good luck to all of those, and thanks ever so much as ever for getting in touch. Come on then, Berth. We had your predictions. Oh well, no, we had your predictions for the games, didn't we? England by 78 and France by 84. So that's on the Match Point Predictor. No, you're going England and France, yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
England and France. I'm going to tuck in behind and do exactly the same, but the points difference will be different. But if you haven't already, please subscribe, rate us as long as it's 5 stars or above. Get in touch. We're everywhere now, aren't we? On social media, Berth. It's your bag.
Yeah.
Where are we? Where are we coming from?
You can literally find us anywhere, whether that's, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it, we're there. So get in touch with us, give us a shout, let us know how this week's gone. Good luck to everybody returning back to rugby. Give us a shout, let us know how things went, how sore you might be, how excited everybody's been. But yeah, we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, indeed. So huge thank you to our guests, and a huge thank you to the team behind making all the wheels and cogs go around nice and smoothly. Enjoy your rugby, getting back out there on the park. Enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the Women's Six Nations.
Until next time.